So let's begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Uh, there is this verse in the Quran in Surah Al Imran, if I recall correctly, it's probably the 18th verse of the surah. It goes like Shahidallahu annahu la ilaha illa huwa wa malaikatuhu wa ulul ilmi qa'iman bil qist la ilaha illa huwa al-azizul hakim. Now, the English translation, I'm going to give the English translation as well for those who who do not understand Arabic. Uh, it says that God bears witness that there is no God except Him, and so do the angels and those who possess knowledge, maintainer of justice, and there is no God but Him, the Almighty, the All-Wise. Okay, so in the verse in this verse, God bears witness on his essence, by his essence, that there is no Lord save his essence. That is to say, that in light of this verse, the divine essence is itself a sufficient proof of its own existence. This is because God, or the reality of existence, either exists or it does not exist. If the reality of existence does not exist, then the reality of existence is identical to non-existence. But a thing cannot be identical to its opposite, since that implies a contradiction, and non-existence is the opposite of the reality of existence. Hence, the reality of existence can never be identical to non-existence, and therefore the reality of existence exists eternally. This is Mulla Sadra's famous Siddiqeen argument on the existence of God that seeks to prove the existence of the necessary being through its own essence, without taking into consideration anything other than the essence, such as contingency, motion, or origination. Okay, that is Wujood. The argument seeks to prove or establish the existence of the divine essence through the essence itself, instead of attempting to establish the reality of the first cause through something other than the essence of the first cause. The Quran alludes to Ibn Sina's argument as well. That is Ibn Sina's argument from contingency, the contingency argument. There is a beautiful verse in the Quran. I'm going to, recite the relevant section and then give a more deep, the English translation of the entire verse. The section that I'm interested in is, goes like, وَهُوَ يُطْعِمُ وَلَا يُطْعَمُ. Okay, so the translation of the entire verse, this is the 14th verse of the 6th chapter. The translation is, say, shall I take a guardian besides God, the originator of the heavens and the earth, and he feeds others and is not himself fed. The greatest and the most significant sustenance is existence. The risk, the greatest or the most significant risk is existence. That which the contingent qualities derive from the first cause, either in a proximate and direct manner, or through one or more intermediaries. The Quran refers to this through the words, "He feeds others." But the first truth is not itself contingent, but a necessary being. It is therefore the uncaused cause of all that is contingent in itself with respect to existence. Since the first truth is the reality of existence, it exists without having derived its existence from another. And the scripture refers to this fact in the following terms: and is not himself fed. Having established the existence of the necessary being, the Quran affirms the absolute self-sufficiency of the first truth in every respect in the following terms. It says like, Ya ayyuhan nasu antumul fuqara'u ila Allahi wallahu huwal ghaniyul hamid. This is the 35th surah and the 15th verse of the 35th surah. So the English translation is, O mankind, you are they who stand in need of God, and God is He who is the self-sufficient, the praised one. And then there is the 200 verse number 267 of Surah Baqarah, which says that wa'alamu annallaha ghaniyun hamid. So, therefore, from the perspective of the Quran and the Islamic Neoplatonic philosophers, the first truth is absolutely self-sufficient in that it is needless or without need of everything in every respect. Because this is because dependence implies limitation, and limitation entails essential contingency, and that which is necessary in itself with respect to existence cannot simultaneously be contingent with respect to existence. Given the absolute self sufficiency of the first truth in every respect, it is evident that from a Quranic perspective, the essence of the necessary being cannot be a composite of parts or a plurality of aspects, because everything that is a composite of parts or a plurality of aspects is dependent upon its parts for being what it is, and dependence is contrary to essential necessity. Hence, according to the Quran, the essence of the first truth is absolutely simple and devoid of plurality and composition, and that such that he is one in every respect. The Quran affirms divine simplicity or ahadiyya as follows. Qul huwallahu ahad. Now, this is obviously Surah Ikhlas. It is the first verse of Surah Ikhlas. Say He is God, the One. Ahadiyya, mentioned in the verse, is the negation of all kinds of plurality, composition, complexity from the divine essence, and the affirmation of His unity from all aspects. The absolutely simple essence of the necessary being is a pure actuality that is eternally active and ever producing. The Quran discusses the notion of God's eternally creative activity in the following verse. La ta'khuzuhu sinatun wala nawm. Now this is the Ayat al-Kursi, verse number 255 of Surah Baqarah. In English, God, there is no God except Him, is the living one, the all-sustainer, neither drowsiness befalls Him, nor sleep. Now this is the part that I'm interested in. Neither drowsiness befalls Him, nor sleep. In light of this verse, the negation of slumber or drowsiness from the divine essence is the negation of rest and inactivity in relation to the first truth. That is to say, that the necessary being is never inactive or at rest with respect to his act, and it is not that he becomes an agent in actuality after previously having been an agent in potentiality. In other words, he is an eternal agent in actuality. And the first or proximate act or effect of an eternal agent in actuality is also eternal through the eternity of the cause of its existence, which is the first truth. Moreover, the transition from potentiality towards actuality implies change, and that which changes or undergoes motion is dependent upon an extraneous mover or an actualizer for its own actualization, whereas the first truth is absolutely self sufficient and devoid of need in every respect, as has already been discussed. Furthermore, everything that changes must have the potential to change, and it must also be something actual. It would therefore be a composite of actuality and potentiality, whereas the first truth is absolutely simple. Hence, the Quran asserts the immutability of the necessary being in the following words. Now, this is the 62nd verse of the 33rd surah, and it goes like, وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. So, and you will not find in the way of God any change. Taking into consideration the fact that the essence of the first truth is an absolutely self sufficient reality that is one and simple in every respect, being completely devoid of plurality, composition, and complexity, nothing proceeds from that which is one and simple in every respect, save that which is one, that is numerically one, or wahid bil adad. The Quran affirms the same notion or idea in the following verse. Now, The verse that I'm referring to over here is the 50th verse of the 54th chapter. Goes like Vama Amruna illa Wahid, something like that, if I recall it correctly. And our command is but one, like the twinkling of an eye. So this is the rule of one, stated explicitly in the Quran. That is, from the perspective of the philosophers. Since the necessary being is at the pinnacle of existence, goodness, and perfection, there being no cause above and beyond the first truth, nor any being more nobler and exalted than it, the effusion of existence that pours forth from the divine essence can only descend downwards. The effusion of existence is the metaphysical water that gives life to all contingent quiddities and existentiates them all, thereby rendering their essential darknesses luminous to the extent of their respective existential capacities. The Quran expresses the same idea in the 17th verse of the 13th chapter. It says, He sends down from the sky rain, and valleys flow according to their capacity. And then uh, the main crux of the Neoplatonic cosmological model is that there is a principle of all reality, which the Neoplatonic philosophers refer to as the one, or the form of the good, or simply the good. And every contingent, every inferior or delimited good, or emanates or proceeds from this reality, either proximately, or that is directly, or through one or more intermediaries. So, and then it reverts back towards this reality, towards this ultimate principle, okay, which is the one, or the good, eventually. So the same concept, notion, can be found in the Quran, everywhere in the Quran, in different forms. Okay, the most famous one that we are aware of, every Muslim is aware of this verse, that inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Okay, so we are from God, and unto him we shall return. So he is, there is all these verses, okay, they basically affirm the same idea, the same notion, that there is a principle which is the cause, or there is a reality which is the cause and the principle of everything else, and everything is going to ultimately revert back towards this reality. So this reality of all existence, of all contingent existence, that is, and it is also the return. Okay, that is, it is both the origin and the return of everything else, and that is why the Quran, refers to the divine as both awwal and akhir. So there is a very beautiful verse, huwa al-awwal wal akhir wal dahir wal batin, or something, and it goes on like that. So this was a very brief introduction to Islamic Neoplatonism from a Quranic, strictly speaking, from a Quranic perspective. This is by no means exhaustive, or a very comprehensive thing. There would be a more detailed and a comprehensive discussion, hopefully in the near future later on. But yes.